Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
This is a renovator's dream.
Rebuild, get rid of it.
Are you taking the...
This house has potential.
This ain't a knockdown.
First thing I noticed about the house was just how much I wanted to knock it down.
Look
at that
go.
view.
That.
Will they renovate or rebuild?
Oh, yeah.
Not going to show that again. Hi, I'm Rosh from Energy Matters. Welcome to our podcast, Road to Zero, where we dive headfirst into all things renewable. Join us as we chat with industry experts, tech specialists, and some of your favourite TV and radio personalities, asking them renewable energy questions that you want answers to. Our goal, a zero carbon future. Today, I'm delighted to be catching up with James McGregor, CEO of Blue Tribe and executive producer on the TV show sensation Renovate or Rebuild. Hello, James.
Yeah, mate. How you going?
I'm very well. How are you?
Road to zero. Yeah, good. Good for getting close to Christmas. Can't believe how fast the year's gone, given the unusual year we've had. But anyway,
it's absolutely flown by. I think one of the things I highlighted on the preview to this week's podcast was more so about the journey and how long the journey has been filming Renovate or Rebuild, which I certainly want to pick your brain about in a short while. But beforehand, talk to us about the man behind the camera, the legend that is the creator of Renovate and Rebuild. What was your journey, James, into becoming a producer for the show?
So my journey's been a little bit unusual in that. So Renovate and Rebuild is my first foray into the TV industry, but it came off the back of, I guess, trying to solve an important sustainability challenge, and that was how do we actually get sustainable housing become mainstream. But I guess going back a few steps, so a long time ago when I studied at university, I actually specialized in photovoltaics when that was a very nascent industry. And
wow.
When I came out of uni, the only place I could get a job was like in a factory in Japan making panels, which didn't really appeal to me. And so I ended up doing consulting and designing buildings and that sort of stuff. And then I spent some time in the army. And then eventually I ended up at CSIRO and doing research and development. And for an engineer, it's like being a kid in a candy shop, right? So, I was leading projects on, built some of the world's first carbon capture plants on coal-fired power stations on the Central Coast here in New South Wales, as well as Victoria and Queensland. Developed, these really cool solar thermal power technologies that were running gas turbines off the concentrated heat from the sun. Looking at smart grids and biofuels and all that sort of stuff. And so I guess, the journey to renovate or rebuild is very much about having that R&D background and being able to look for innovation. And so I left CSIRO, started Blue Tribe Company, and our mission is to sort of create solutions at scale that fix really important environmental and social issues. And obviously net zero is one of those really important things that we need to achieve. And so Renovate or Rebuild actually came out of a project we were doing for the New South Wales government. And they asked us the question, well, how do we actually get sustainable housing become mainstream, right? So when people think about sustainable housing, they think of a hay bale house with a rammed earth floor with spiders, and I need to live in a commune and have dreadlocks and a tie-dye shirt, right? But we know that a sustainable house is actually a really high quality product, right? It's really energy efficient, produces its own power, and it can be actually really, really architectural. And so we worked with, after that background in the research, we worked with a lot of universities and the CSIRO to look at, well, what actually does drive consumers their choices when it comes to housing products, right? And not surprisingly, what came back was TV shows like The Block. All right? And The Block, just to give you an example, The Block itself, just one TV show, drives about $500 million worth of additional renovation expenditure off the back of that show.
Which is absolutely phenomenal. And I mean, even when it first kicked off, 12, 13 years ago, I mean, you could just see, the impact it had, even just from your visits to Bunnings and Mitre 10 and Home Improvement. I mean, every man and his dog was doing everything they possibly could do to upgrade their property.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and those shows are really influential in what people buy for good and bad, right? So whether it be a double shower or a butler's pantry or insulation, TV shows are a really powerful mechanism to educate consumers about or create desire for certain features in a home. And it sort of goes back to our caveman days. And so human beings, a lot of people think particularly people people listening to this podcast are going to be in this, maybe in that sustainability space, or they're particularly interested in the environment and trying to make change happen. And one of the biggest mistakes that we see sustainability people make is they think the mission's enough, right? And everyone thinks the same as us. They think that climate change, they have to do something about climate change. And like, no one's waking up in the morning going, what can I do about my carbon footprint today? Except a very tiny portion of the population.
Yeah.
Right. And so, and we think that people make rational decisions, but we don't. Human beings make decisions based on emotion, right? So like if you go back historically, go back thousands of years when we were hunters and gatherers, if you were out on the plain hunting and something with big teeth came along, right, you had to respond to chemicals in your brain and run away very quickly, or you got eaten by that thing with big teeth, right? So all those human beings that responded to chemicals like cortisol and adrenaline and oxytocin in their brains survived to then reproduce, and we repeat that cycle lots of times. We have us here today, and we're still controlled by that crocodile brain, which is why storytelling is so powerful in influencing our choices, right? And so therefore TV shows influence our choices, and Renovate or Rebuild was born from that idea. Well, if that's the mechanism to shift what people want and to show them the benefits of sustainable housing, then we need to make a TV show, and that's where basically where it came from.
And I think the phrase you used to me a while ago was edutainment. So it's using education in that entertainment format. Yeah,
well, I mean, storytelling has been the way which human beings have passed on knowledge for thousands and thousands of years, right? So it's a means to educate people because we remember stories, and they activate these emotions, which lead us to then follow through and act on those. And so, edutainment's really important, and Renovate or Rebuild's like a really good example of that. We've got it's a fun format where you got these two teams competing. One's trying to do renovate, one's trying to rebuild. You got these big bold characters, but underneath all of that, we're getting across the really important design considerations you need to have if you want a home that's energy efficient, a home that's healthy, a home that's comfortable, a home that produces its own power. And there's some really basic rules of thumb that you can use, and we weave that into the storyline. So as the viewers are enjoying the show, they're also learning something really, really valuable for their own home.
No, fantastic. I mean, I know where Energy Matters got involved. I mean, I've been in solar power now since 2009, and Energy Matters was first started in 2005. And after 16 years of Energy Matters, or even 12 years of myself being in this industry, I believe it's only around a third of homes maximum, really more like about 25% that have solar power. And given what is actually going on with global warming, and the amount of noise and the scientific evidence to support what's actually happening to our planet, I'd have expected a much greater uptake of renewable energy technology. So for us, for Energy Matters, getting involved in Renovate or Rebuild was an absolute no-brainer, because it really gave us an opportunity to talk and have a hard conversation about go sustainable. It has some great technology. Renewable energy technology isn't necessarily the sexiest thing that you'll have on your property, but at the same token, it can look nice, and more importantly, it's a double-edged impact. It reduces your energy consumption, reduces your energy bills. It's completely green, and it's just about making it affordable for your property. But then end result is you're reducing your carbon impact.
Yeah, but even just on straight economics now. I mean, when I put my solar system on here, maybe 12 years ago now, the payback was like 15 years. And I wasn't doing it for the economics, but these days, solar has got become so cheap that it's almost a no-brainer. Like it's not even something you should be thinking about, because the paybacks are so short. 2 to 3 years, you'll typically sort of get your investment back. Electricity prices are going up, and but it's that issue of awareness. So people, if you watch all these renovation shows, they all focus on the tiles or the kitchen bench top, or is it postmodern, or is it industrial, or is it Hampton style? It focuses on all those issues. So that's what people get interested in. And so the whole idea behind Renovate or Rebuild is to talk about really important things like solar, and explain to people like which way do you face your roof and what technology options are available to me, to make it front of mind, because it's a no-brainer in terms of just purely cost. And as we move into this next phase of what's going to happen in the world, even independent of what's happening with the climate, it's a sensible decision to make.
No, fantastic. Thanks, mate. You definitely should be a spokesperson for Energy Matters and every other solar retailer and manufacturer in Australia and on the planet. James, obviously, as well as Energy Matters, there's been some amazing partners being featured on the show. Some organisations I've never really heard about. And to be fair, I mean, we're looking to build our property for the first time next year, and certainly I'll be having renewable energy technology on there. But really, some of the partners on that show and their contribution towards a net zero home was absolutely outstanding. Can you just name a few of those partners and how their product actually contributes towards a zero carbon future?
Well, so before I sort of get to the partners, maybe talk about some of the things that make a home energy efficient and lead to that net zero, and then it makes more sense where everyone's product sort of fits into it. So, when we're thinking about a sustainable home, there's probably 4 real things you need to think about, right? So the first thing is you need to design it for your local climate, right? So a home in Darwin has different characteristics and design considerations than a home in Tasmania or Melbourne, right? So in Melbourne, you're in mostly a heating climate, so you need to think about heating and keeping warmth in the house. Whereas you're up in Darwin, you're wanting to get the heat out and make sure you've got a lot of airflow and ventilation. So the first thing is design for your climate. Next thing is to think about your building shell, and that's where a lot of our partners are involved. So, the building shell is really that, the envelope that protects you from the environment, but it also does an important job in terms of managing the comfort of the house. So, things like insulation, the cladding systems, the window systems. And so in like Renovate or Rebuild this season, we've got brands like Bondor who do these structural insulated panels. So basically like prefabricated insulated walls, right? Super high performance. They're really airtight. They clip together. And so that allows you to create a really airtight and well insulated building shell, which makes the home really comfortable. But one of the weakest points in any home in terms of its thermal performance and internal comfort are the windows. This year we had the team from De Kooning who make these amazing UPVC windows, which are pretty much around the world. If you go to Europe, like UPVC is like the main product, whereas in Australia we still sort of do these aluminium windows. And De Kooning and their partners, Ultimate Windows and Integra Windows in Sydney. That's probably the one of the biggest weak points in any home is the windows, right? So getting really high performance windows that are great acoustic properties, great thermal properties. And those sorts of things are really important to your building envelope. And then we come inside the house, which is when you get on your products and services and making sure you select efficient appliances. And then finally, once you've got all that sorted and you've got a really efficient house, then you start looking at your solar and your battery systems, right? Where you're starting to overlay it onto the home, which is where Energy Matters and all your partners. We saw really cool battery technology from a range of different partners, really cool solar tech. Electric vehicles, which are a big emerging trend coming in the next sort of few years.
Absolutely.
But then also when you're trying to work out your home, then the real estate considerations are really important. So across the season, we had real estate agents from different groups. So up in Queensland, the team from McGrath, Alex Jordan, we had the team from Rockwood down here down in Victoria with you guys, Century 21 up in Sydney. And so, there's these, and Barry Plant also down in Victoria. So, building a home and making decisions, there's lots of partners involved. And everyone has a really important role to play in that net zero, whether it be the performance of the house, whether it be the energy generation, or whether it's the real estate agents who are, helping homes that have higher energy performance get better property values, which then provides a signal to homeowners that, well, actually, maybe if I upgrade the performance of my house, I'm going to get a higher value for my property, which we are seeing evidence starting to emerge now, particularly places like Canberra that have mandatory, when you buy and sell a house in Canberra, you have to declare the energy rating of that home. And there is evidence that shows that the higher, for a like house on the same street, if one home has a higher energy rating than the other, it would command a higher price from the market.
Well, and it's certainly, and as you mentioned earlier, it's certainly becoming more and more important given the rising costs of electricity and gas from a retail perspective. So yes, solar power. I mean, I'm obviously flying the flag for renewable energy technology, but just with those other products that are available to increase the energy rating on the home. And I saw on the show itself, I mean, I think almost every single home is in the sevens, mid sevens in terms of energy rating. What does that actually mean? So having a home in there, and I apologize to be on the spot. I know you'll be across it, so I'm asking you the question. But to have a home sort of in the mid sevens, I mean, what does that do to a bill?
Yeah, I mean, so a lot of people don't realize that the energy rating for homes is a score out of 10. So in most jurisdictions around Australia, with the exception of a couple of areas. When you buy a brand new home, it has to be built to a minimum of 6-star, but it's actually 6 out of 10. So that's like the minimum worst level, right, if I can word it that way.
Yeah.
And basically what the star rating does, the higher the star rating, the less energy you need to control the comfort of the home. All right, so or less heating and cooling you need. So home, that's a 10 out of 10 star. And actually in the next episode, episode 8 next week, we feature a home that's a 10 out of 10 down in South Australia. So if you get a 10-star rating, energy rating in your home, what that means is you don't really need any mechanical heating or cooling to maintain a comfortable performance of the house all year round. And so the lower the star rating you get, then the more energy you need to put into it to make it comfortable in summer and in winter.
Gotcha.
And so on the show, every week the teams are working with their architect, and their brief is to get at least a minimum of 7 stars, right? And I think we achieved that in all bar one property this year, and that was partly because that was the renovation, and there was only so much we could do with the existing home. And the reason we pick 7-star is that there's a lot of research that sort of, when you start looking at the cost that you need to spend to get to, as you go up to 8, 9, 10 stars, you do need to start spending more money on better windows and better insulation, better roofing. But the step from 6 to 7 stars is, in some cases, can be cost neutral, but it's not actually a big leap forward. But you do get a big benefit in terms of the energy performance of the home, which then when you combine that with solar, you can get your home to become either net zero carbon or net zero energy, depending on what you're trying to achieve. But basic rule of thumb is the higher the star rating, the less amount of energy you need to heat and cool the house. And we recommend that you sort of aim for at least 7-star for a number of reasons. One, it's really achievable. It's not expensive to get that. It gives you a lot of long-term benefit, because a lot of the things that influence the star rating are things that are not easy to change, right? So once your walls are up, and if you haven't got good insulation in, and that's it. Like, you either have to strip them down and start again. Your windows are going to be there for 25, 30, 40 years. So getting a high star rating now, so in many ways, future-proofs your home, and it'll pay dividends for the whole life of that property.
Putting that into the context of the TV show, was it the architect that ensured that home incorporated, sort of the insulation and the different types of technology to achieve that rating, or is that then from the actual the contestants themselves with their home improvements or building background?
So a bit of both, as well as so we also had our energy consultant partners, Suho, on the show. So that each week they would actually do the ratings for all of the homes, and it's really a collaboration, right? So the role of the design teams, the teams, Team Renovate and Team Rebuild, is really they're acting in as almost like the client. So normally an architect would work directly with the homeowners. In this case, the teams were acting as the client. So they would give the architect their brief, they come up with their ideas, sketch the sort of things that they were interested in. They provide them with, I like this sort of design or this style. And the teams are also using a lot of those basic design principles that we talked about earlier, right? So looking at the climate, the orientation of the property, getting living areas in the correct area. So a lot of that sort of stuff was done, and a lot of that makes a really big difference. Like, if you're just getting your living areas in the right place and your windows in the right locations, makes a massive difference to the energy performance of the home. But then the architects had worked very closely with Suho, the energy consultants, who would advise them on making design tweaks, window sizes, openings, shading, in order to get that sort of star rating. So you do need experts around you to design homes like this, and you need to make sure you engage those experts, because buildings, homes are quite complex. There's a lot of building science that goes into a house, and there's lots of systems that have to work together. And so you do need those experts to sort of help guide you to get a really good outcome.
Absolutely. And James, I mean, having been part of the process with you now since I think we first spoke about Renovate and Rebuild mid last year, to now being on screen, there's been a lot of challenges, hasn't there? It'd be fair to say that it's been probably an unusual, series of events over the last 12 months for Renovate and Rebuild. Can you elaborate on those?
Yeah, so it was funny. I was talking to a reporter who was doing an article about the show, and she was saying I made a suggestion on the title of the news post. So you should call this "How to Make a TV Show in the Middle of a Global Pandemic Across 4 Different States, Integrating world's first integration of leading behavioural science into a TV show that's never been made before, because it has been a big challenge. But even going way back to the beginning of the project, this project actually came out of a program research project with the New South Wales government. So, first of all, we had to make the case to the New South Wales government, actually, if you want to shift demand for sustainable housing, you've got to make a reality TV show. That was an interesting conversation to start with. And then eventually, once people understood, well, this is evidence-based and science-based. Actually, it's funny. We put in a submission, award submission, actually recently for the show, and we had to map out sort of a bit of a timeline of what had happened. And so I called it like the journey and emotions of Renovate or Rebuild. And so the first thing was once we eventually got it over the line and we're ready to sort of make this show, we had to go and approach the market to raise, get sponsors sponsors like Energy Matters. To be able to make the show. And the first time we did that, COVID hit. We were literally ready to go, and then COVID hit, so the whole project got scuttled. So first it was like really exciting, and we got out there, and then literally the knees got cut out from the underneath the project when COVID hit first in early 2020.
Yeah,
and then it basically got put on hold for 6 months because no one knew what was going to happen in that world, right? So no one wanted to sort of progress projects back then. Eventually, the world settled down and people realized that the world wasn't going to come to an end. So then we went back out to the market, the race, to speak to sponsors and stuff again, and eventually got a great team together, including Energy Matters. So that was really exciting. And then, that was just before Christmas Christmas 2020. And then I remember there was all these borders started closing in sort of January.
I remember.
Straight after. we went to start filming on the 2nd or 3rd of February, and all of a sudden borders were shutting in Western Australia, and then so we had to completely rechange the presenters on the show, because what we decided was we had to try to contain everyone within their home state as much as we could to minimize people crossing borders. And so we completely scrapped all the presenter concept for the show and changed it within 4 days, which was kind of terrifying. Then we started filming, and I was like, woohoo, yeah. So we went from, oh my God, to now we've finally started. This is really exciting. Yeah. And then we flew into Brisbane for the first bit of filming in Brisbane, literally the day Brisbane went into lockdown. I was at Brisbane Airport. I was in the car, and I came over the radio, Brisbane's going into a snap lockdown. Literally, that's the day we arrived. I was like, oh, God, you got to be kidding me, right? And then we flew down to Victoria to film for the judging segment in Victoria, and then we were there the day Melbourne went into lockdown again. I was like, oh, you've got to be joking me. And then literally we had 2 days of filming left for the entire season in Sydney to do the judging segments. And then the day we were meant to film, Sydney went into lockdown.
Oh, man.
And so it was like, you got to be, kidding me. But eventually we got it all there, and it gets better. And then eventually we got it there and got it over the line. And people who have seen the show would have seen in episodes 3 and 6 for the Sydney episode, we had to do it over Zoom because Sydney went into lockdown and stayed there. And then one of the concepts behind the TV show in terms of getting reach is we had this big social media. It's called community-based social marketing. It's a whole lot of social content that goes out around the show, around different themes. And so it relies on this social media. And the day the show premiered, Facebook crashed. There was this big global thing. I don't remember that, but
I do.
I woke up in the morning, you've got to be, So anyway, but we got there in the end. And I think, I think that's one of the things around this. The show's a mission-driven show, right? It's not just a TV show. It actually has a very specific purpose around making the world a better place. And I actually think that's the thing that kept us going, because you could have just thrown your hands in the air and going, why are we doing this? Because all these things kept going wrong. Particularly, it's like playing whack-a-mole with border closures. And so, that's one of the things that sort of really kept us going. And look, all our partners like you guys, super flexible. Everyone understood. Sometimes we would be cancelling filming the day before we went to film because of borders and stuff. And then we were on the phone going, great, Tuesday's free. Can everyone get there? And everyone just dropped everything, and we just got it done. So,
and I think it's what you said as well. I mean, we're as one of those partners. I mean, we're less precious about the having things happen when they're supposed to happen in the format they're supposed to. It's more about getting it done, because as you said, why the mission, the goal is so powerful, and we're all fighting for a zero carbon future more than just for ourselves, for our families, and for our future generations. I mean, when you really tap into that and get present to it, there's nothing that's going to stop you from having it, fulfilling on that goal, and everyone can play an impact no matter how large or small it is. Which is incredible.
Yeah,
What's the feedback actually been like for the show? I mean, there'll always be haters out there. There'll always be, you
trolls,
responding, and fair play. Everyone's entitled to an opinion, that's fine. But what's with the feedback that's come to you so far? What's it been like?
When we designed the show, in some ways it was, we wanted it to be a fun, right? And describe baby.
The audio is a little dodgy right now. FYI.
Oh, you got me now? Am I back?
Kind of. You're kind of doing that robot thing when the video doesn't make it clear.
Yeah.
You look quite frightening. I'm quite actually glad this is being filmed because otherwise I've taken a photo of your screenshot. Nah, we're having internet issues. Say something. So while we're waiting for James to come back, if you want to go solar power, you can do. Certainly visit our website at www.ngmatters.com.au. Oh, sorry, James. I was spruiking solar quotes. I was waiting for you to come back.
Right,
that's how you get a quote for solar power, guys. You want to say Tesla last night. Some amazing technology out there. Anyway, I'll continue spruiking again in a second. Let me just go back to James.
Yeah. Cool. All right, we should be back now.
No, sweet. So, what's the feedback tonight?
Yeah, so overall it's been very, very good. So we designed the show. I mean, the way we describe it was, if your favorite architectural design show had a baby with your favorite comedy festival, then it's sort of really what epitomizes what we want. We want people to have a big smile on their face at the end of every episode. And so, the feedback's been overwhelmingly positive. People sort of love the show. There was a little bit of audience learning. So people are used to seeing the same sort of lifestyle TV shows all the time. And then one consistent feedback we got early on in the piece was, well, do we see the build or where are the builds, right? But the show's really designed show. And there's plenty of reno shows out there that show you builds. Some of those builds probably shouldn't happen. But if you want to see builds, there's no shortage of that. What we really wanted to focus on was all of those things that happened before the build happens, right? So and even the show, Renovate or Rebuild, like there's stacks of people out there who are actually stuck on this problem. Like they've got an existing home, it's really tired, they don't know what to do with it, and they actually have, they have fights with their partner around, should we renovate, should we rebuild it? And a lot of that's because they don't have a structure or understand the design process to be able to weigh that up. So the show was very deliberate in that it was focusing on that design phase. And in many ways, some of the most important decisions you'll ever make will happen before you even start building. So where do I put my living areas? Where do I put my utility areas? Which way does my roof face so I can optimize it for solar? What sort of insulation, what sort of windows am I going to put in, right? So if you get those things wrong, you're stuck with it for a very, very long time. So I think most of the feedback we got around people who didn't understand the format were, well, where are the builds? And brand new show, people hadn't seen it before, and so I think we're up to we've just finished episode 7, and so we're actually now built. Those questions don't come through anymore. Like people get the show, we're getting lots of love it, lots of interaction on the designs, and I think so. There was a little bit of that audience education had to occur. Like people had to trying to learn the format and understand what it was about. And we're taking some of that on board as well, some of that feedback, because first season as well. So we're not saying it's perfect, and the show should get better and better every year. And so we'll keep the things that people really love, and we'll look to improve the things that people wanted to see more of, like builds, for example.
Absolutely amazing, and that'll be incredible to see if it's possible inside of that format and inside the time frame there is to film it, how much progress can actually be made into renovating or rebuilding their actual property.
Exactly.
I look forward to seeing how you manage that, James. With this,
Me too.
with the show itself, I mean, is it going to? I was chatting with one of the other producers, Sam from Northlight Productions, and he was letting me know has been some interest shown internationally to show Renovate Rebuild.
Yep.
Can you give us some new, first heard it here first news on that?
Yeah, so we're definitely in negotiations around getting the show into US markets or internationally. We've had interest from as far as way as Iceland. So, one of the Icelandic people from Icelandic TV reached out to us about getting Renovate or Rebuild on their network. So no official announcements yet, but I think there's a pretty good chance that Renovate or Rebuild will be seen internationally. I know we've had lots of people from places like South Africa, for example, contacting us going, we really want, we'd love to watch the show here in South Africa. I'm pretty confident we'll see it on international stations in the not too distant future. But we're still, we still haven't finished broadcasting in Australia. We've got one more episode to go. There's definitely movement in that area.
And there is a possibility, and I believe there's a strong possibility that the actual show itself. I mean, I know it's currently saved on on 9 Now on the streaming network, so anyone can access that digitally by visiting 9 Now, which is Channel 9's digital streaming platform, and that'll be stored there as stream when you feel like it service. But I believe it's also going to be screened on the main network. Is that something?
Yeah, so we're just waiting to hear when those dates might be. So at this stage will probably be after Christmas sometime. But people will get to see it again on the main network sometime in 2022, which will be exciting. Definitely. They just jump on 9 Now. It can stream in 2021. Most people are probably streaming their stuff anyway. So if they just jump on 9 Now on their TV, they can sit back and binge watch it all weekend if they want.
And to be honest, it's so much more like from our perspective, the hours we do, obviously we haven't traveled extensively for a while now, but generally we are. And it's so much more convenient just to be able to sit in the comfort of your own home on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon and just smash out the entire season. So
exactly. And particularly if you're trying to decide what to do with your home. I mean, it's almost like the show is almost like a giant Pinterest board of ideas to get you thinking about different, because we visit all these amazing properties across the format. So whilst it's based around a particular family and their challenge about what they're trying to do with their property, the teams go out and visit some amazing properties. They look at some cool tech with your partners, and so it's great for just generating ideas. I like that. I don't like that. I'm going to incorporate that in my design, and allows you to sort of build up that library of ideas and design features that you want to incorporate in your own home.
Yeah, I mean, we've been blown away by the quality of design. I mean, and even last night's episode, which featured partner Specialized Solar and Tesla. There you go, guys. Thank you. The quality of those homes were absolutely stunning, and I mean, they have been every single episode. And I've actually been outstanded as to, yes, I know some budgets, or the cost of those renovations or rebuilds have varied depending episode to episode. But as a rule, it's been a lot. It hasn't been as expensive for that quality of home. Those numbers have come in a lot lower than I anticipated they would do.
Yeah, and we deliberately tried to also feature a range of properties across the season. So we wanted ones that were a bit more accessible in terms of having lower budgets, but we also wanted to feature some of those higher end properties because there's still lots of great. You can still glean. You might not be building a 3-story gorgeous architectural home 50 meters from the water on the eastern suburbs of Sydney. But there's lots of design features that you can take from that. The type of facade they use, how they use the windows, how they brought natural light into the living areas. So there's still lots of great ideas you can generate with your own design, even if you don't build the square meterage.
And that's fantastic. And season 2, James, will there be a season 2?
Yes, there will be a season 2, and we're deep in planning at the moment. So we mentioned before, some of that feedback we've got. So we're looking at changes to the format. Obviously, we need to plan for things like COVID, so we learn all the lessons. So we've got to have that in the back of our mind in terms of how we're going to film this and where we're going to film this. But we are deep in planning for season 2 as we speak. So
fantastic. And for people listening, what are a couple of simple things anyone can do for their home to move towards net zero?
Yeah. So and this is a lot of things that anyone can improve the performance of their home to reduce their energy consumption, which then helps contribute to this net zero future. So a couple of really key things. First thing, focus on that building envelope and look at where are the areas that you can improve either the insulation or the air tightness. Look at windows and those sorts of things. If you're looking at a reno, just some basic rules of thumb, make sure you get your living areas to the north, all right? So you can bring in all that natural light and get that free heating in winter if you're in that sort of climate zone. Put your utility rooms and stuff on the west so that blocks out the western sun, and typically bedrooms will go to the south. So like if you can think of like a rough floor plan, look at energy efficiency. So things like just lighting and appliances and those sorts of things internal to the house. And then once you've got those things sorted, then look at solar batteries. Particularly things like electric vehicle chargers, like even making your home electric vehicle ready. By making sure you've got enough capacity in your switchboards, or running power into garages and those sorts of things, because I think that's a really exciting area of technology development where your electric vehicle becomes a battery for the house. So that's a two-way connection. So I think once you've got solar batteries, think about some of those future techs that might be coming through.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, James, look, thank you very, very much for your time today. I do appreciate it. You've been an absolute legend. And look, certainly there's one more episode to go. So that's going to be on Monday at 8:30 on Channel 9 Life. And as we outlined earlier in the conversation, you can certainly screen the entire series. It'll be on there on 9 Now for some time. So just jump onto 9 Now's digital network and stream it to your heart's content. Before we finish, remember that you can get three quotes to go solar power for free via Energy Matters website, as well as do a free energy bill comparison via our site. So visit us at your convenience, and please feel free to like, follow, and subscribe to our social media networks so you can watch more of these in the future. James, can't wait to catch up for a beer. It's been long overdue.
Yes, mate, for sure. Yep.
Yourself well soon.
Yep. All right, mate. Great. Thanks.
All the best. Thanks, mate.
Thanks,
See ya.
man. See ya.